Colin O'Keefe here for LXBN TV. The Food and Drug Administration recently set the level at which foods can be labeled as being gluten-free, but several consumer groups have said that the threshold for which it's set may be potentially dangerous. Joining me now to explain the story is attorney Seth Malhot. He is with Shepard Mullen in Washington, D.C., and he is author on the FDA Law Update blog. Seth, first, can you describe how the FDA arrived at a level for gluten-free labeling that's above the threshold that groups deem to be potentially dangerous?
So generally what FDA reached was to use existing analytical methods to establish the level that it used to determine whether something was gluten-free or not. Because FDA reported that there was a lack of human clinical data and data on exposure, which would allow them to establish it through more of a risk-based assessment. And, there are other considerations that FDA needed to worry about. One is economics and trade issues. Basically, it is important for manufacturers to have a consistent, reliable standard that they can meet. And also for export purposes, Canadian and European governments have established this 20 part per million level. And so to be consistent with the rest of the world, FDA decided to use the available analytical methods to make that basis. Unfortunately, because of the lack of understanding about celiac disease in general, it dates back only to earlier in this century, and the diagnosis of celiac disease is still difficult today. I mean, there are people who do have celiac disease who do not test positive based on existing diagnostic methods. So there's a bit of catch-up that I think will happen over the next couple of years as newer techniques in diagnosing celiac disease and also diagnosing exposure and illnesses that result from celiac disease. Because unfortunately, celiac disease is not like traditional allergens where it creates an anaphylactic reaction. It's an autoimmune disorder, so the symptoms are not as sudden and immediate when you do have exposure.
I see. So second, is this something that consumers should be worried about? You mentioned in your post on the matter that other independent organizations may issue their own labeling. Should consumers instead look to those, or do those have their own faults as well?
Well, it depends. I mean, obviously there is a good history behind certain certifications. For example, the Jewish dietary standards, the kashrut, are protected under the Parev labeling symbol. Underwriters Laboratories has labeled consumer electronics for many years as far as for safety purposes. So independent certification is certainly something that should be reliable. FDA noted in the Federal Register that labeling in any form needs to be truthful and not misleading, and did say that they were going to spend some time evaluating these other certification methods. But for the most part, these independent groups are not relying just on an analytical test to ensure that something is gluten-free, but also propose including good manufacturing practice audits and inspections to ensure that there are proper controls in place at the food manufacturing facility to ensure that contamination does not occur. So there are a number of different standards out there, and it is true that some consumers who are particularly sensitive do need to be aware of the risk that exposure has for them. but these independent certification agencies do provide an extra level of assurance that the current FDA gluten-free labeling requirements maybe don't provide.
I see. This is going to be an interesting story to watch. Gluten-free diets are, of course, very popular and getting more popular, whether it's because of the allergies or simply by choice. So this type of labeling is going to be interesting to watch in both the near and distant future as well. Once again, that was Attorney Seth Milhot of Shepherd Mullen. For more of his insight on this gluten-free labeling, be sure to visit FDALawblog.com. And if you're not already watching us here on our site at LXBN, be sure to visit LXBN.com for more of these LXBN TV video interviews, and we have curated commentary from the LexBlog Network's more than 8,000 members. Thank you for joining me today, Seth.
Thank you.